At the reunion, someone asked, 5 executives, 4 chairs, what do you do? I blurted out, if they all look like Julian, he can just sit on me, okay? The words had barely left my mouth when a low voice sounded behind me. Oh, you sure? Before we go on, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. 1. After endless coaxing, I finally convinced Mom to let me leave my hometown and fight for a future alone in Riverdale. I'd barely arrived when the college reunion rolled around. Most of our old classmates were Riverdale locals, so the whole thing doubled as a welcome party for me. When Tiffany hauled me into the private dining room, practically everyone greeted me at once. I spotted a few familiar faces I hadn't seen in ages, yet the one person I'd really hoped to see was missing, the brightest star of our campus days. I pretended to count heads casually. Hey, are we short a few people? Tiffany swept her eyes across the room. Yup, pretty much everyone who's out of town bailed. Oh, so all the locals showed? She thumbed her phone. Nope. Julian didn't come. I nodded like I didn't care. Inside I kept wondering, why isn't he here? Tiffany was already dragging me to a seat. He's crazy busy these days. Who knows if he'll squeeze out the time. The second the crowd heard Julian's name, they buzzed louder than the neon sign. Julian? Dude's a CEO now. Yep, big shot, crazy schedule. They say the offices around here have interned fangirls kneeling before the CEO. Sam, you're toxic, Sam? Ha ha ha. I rode the wave, talking about Julian like I had nothing to hide. I even got reckless. Julian was hot in college, right? And somehow he still is. True, half this room is still thirsty for his face. After a couple of drinks, the topic swung to me. When they heard I was job hunting, an HR classmate offered a mock interview to build my nerve. Tipsy me agreed instantly. Bring on the tough stuff, she grinned. Relax, I'm a pro. For the next 5 minutes I met the weirdest questions on earth. If we hire you, what will you lose? How do you sell stilettos to a mermaid? What color is your brain? What kind of anti-human questions are these? The torture continued. 5 executives walk in, only 4 chairs. Solution? I was officially drunk on adrenaline and spoke without a filter. If they're Julian level, one can sit on me, deal? The instant the words escaped, I saw the mock interviewer's expression crumble. What? The question can be outrageous but my answer can't. Then a deep voice drifted from behind. Magnetic, masculine, laced with teasing. Oh? You sure? 2. Holy crap. I recognized that voice at light speed and froze solid. Hadn't they said Julian wasn't coming? How was he suddenly here? The room fell pin-drop quiet, his footsteps loud enough to echo. My classmates wore full popcorn grins while my toes started excavating a new subway line. Is there anything more mortifying than being caught by the very person you were fantasizing about? Will Julian think I'm a total psycho? He stopped behind me, his voice floated from above. Scarlett? I didn't dare turn. Oh, haha, top student Julian's here, welcome, he chuckled. Not even going to look at me? That how you greet people? I creaked my neck. Stiff neck. I shot Tiffany a mayday stare. Taking pity, she finally spoke up. CEO, didn't you say you had a board meeting and couldn't make it? Julian angled himself, pulled out the chair beside me, and sat like he owned gravity. Meetings aren't mandatory. I sat ramrod straight, feeling his gaze land and linger. Some people, though, are mandatory to see. Who? Male or female? My brain screamed the question while my face stayed petrified. Any passerby would think I had a speech impediment. Haha, Julian kept smiling at me. 1 minute you want me on your lap, the next you're giving me the cold shoulder? The guy's heart is still pitch black. Who clings to a throwaway line like that? I quivered. Just kidding. Tiffany caught my SOS and explained, CEO, Scarlett has a job interview next week, we're running drills. Interview? She can ask me directly. With that he studied me like a cat at a fish tank. I knew he's the CEO, but he hadn't shown up, until now, in the worst context ever. I waved frantic little hands. No need, thanks anyway, CEO. Tiffany, though, volunteered, any tips for her, CEO? The look Julian gave me after that was layered. Keep the same energy, Tiffany blinked. Really? Even the sit on me part? Julian tapped the table edge with a long finger, eyes smiling. Works for me. 3. At the time I shrugged off his answer. 2 days later I wanted a time machine. I sat in the Sterling boardroom. Julian was directly across from me. The interviewer who'd given up his seat was bowing next to Julian, whispering, "Dear Lord, help me. I'd actually applied to Julian's company." Worse, I could hear them brainstorming the interview questions. Remembering Julian's comment, a dark premonition crawled over me. Sure enough, 60 seconds later the hex dropped. The interviewer's lips opened and closed. "If 5 executives arrive but only 4 chairs exist, what would you do?" Julian sat back, fingers steepled, eyes gleaming at me like I was primetime TV. Bloody hell, I can't say that again. I tested the water. "Do we have to stick to this scenario? Must you torture me, universe?" The interviewer stayed silent. Julian nodded first. "Yes," I squeaked. "I believe Sterling could fetch one more chair." Julian's brows pinched. Clearly my vanilla answer bored him. The interviewer read the room and snapped, "No extra chairs, that's the constraint." I stared at Julian, he stared at me. I knew what he wanted. After all, at the reunion he'd specifically said, "Keep the same energy." It's just one sentence. If I say it, they pretty much have to hire me, right? "I actually like this company." Say it, offer likely. Don't, game over. After an eternity of civil war inside my skull, I committed a second public felony. If the exec in the middle doesn't mind, he could sit on me? I even pointed at Julian so nobody would miss the reference. Hey, mutual destruction it is. The instant I doubled down, the room detonated in silent shock waves. The interviewer turned pale and stammered to Julian, "CEO, I'm sorry, HR must have let a crazy slip through." Translation: "We accidentally shortlisted a lunatic." Julian laughed. Then crisp applause rang through the boardroom. He clapped and nodded like a talent show judge. "Excellent. Sterling needs employees exactly like you. You're hired." The interviewer's jaw unhinged, ping-ponging between me and Julian, pupils dilated in disbelief. Me, internally screaming, externally dead. 4. I went viral, thermonuclear viral, bigger than the latest meme coin. Every employee in the tower knew by lunch. The rookie who'd invited the CEO to sit on her during the interview. The same rookie Julian publicly praised and hired on the spot. In every Slack thread they asked the same question. What kind of witch is she? Making the Ice King CEO burst into applause. I figured that with so many new hires this round, I could just blend into the crowd. Turns out some backstabber leaked my name way ahead of time. While I was hunting for my cubicle with my brand new employee badge, I collected a full lap of stares. That's her, right? The new girl? Must be. Last name Vance, how many of those can there be? Definitely her. So shameless, daring the CEO to sit on her lap. Some extroverted older lady even waved at me. "Morgan, is it true you did that thing during the job interview?" Me, what thing, exactly? What the heck? Julian, I hate you. You get older, but your heart just gets darker. I didn't expect Julian to suffer instant karma, though. I'd already become the hottest new celebrity in Sterling, and still he didn't think to dial down the spotlight. The instant I sat at my cubicle, my supervisor came to chase me away. "Scarlett, your spot isn't here." A bad feeling flared. I hugged my stuff protectively. Why? I was hired for this position. I traded every scrap of dignity for this job. Don't kick me out. My supervisor only smiled. Nothing's wrong. The CEO thinks you're exceptional, so he promoted you. Under everyone's gaping stare, I vaulted from staffer straight to team lead. The fastest promotion in company history. When I plopped into that team lead chair, I still wore a giant question mark on my face. Julian, is this a belated attack of conscience? Feeling guilty about how brutal you were in the interview? After my supervisor parked me, something felt off. This spot, every time I looked up, I stared straight at Julian's office. Weird. Lucky for me, the blinds were still shut. I was thinking exactly that when the blinds rolled up. Julian stood at the glass, gaze flicking vaguely over my area. I almost mouthed thanks, but the blinds slapped back down. "Sir, what are you playing, curtain shuffleboard?" Minutes later Julian strode out. Half an hour, short meeting, everyone. Roger. Execute. First meeting at the new gig, little thrill, tiny nerves. Too excited, I missed the restless spark hiding under my coworkers' calm masks. The trouble surfaced only once we'd begun. Dedicated worker that I am, I marched into the boardroom early and claimed a corner seat. Colleagues drifted in, then slipped out again. I noticed them dragging in extra chairs but didn't think twice. Soon the boardroom was stuffed. Yes, stuffed. Before Julian even arrived, the boss's throne sat empty, but no chair accompanied it. I congratulated myself on choosing the outer edge. When Julian starts roasting people, he won't reach me. 5. Julian walked in wearing his default cool mask. Spotting the missing chair, he knitted his brows. Where am I supposed to sit? When no one answered, he merely looked puzzled, until an invitation came and horror dawned. The veteran to the throne's right grinned and patted his thigh. CEO, how about you park yourself right here on me? The senior woman on the left refused to yield. CEO, that beanpole will bruise you, sit on me instead. Suddenly the boardroom felt like someone lit a firecracker fuse. CEO, over here. I can hold a squat all day. He's too scrawny, pick me. CEO, I'm soft all over, come aboard. CEO, Julian, engulfed, wore a face carved from disbelief. I froze, then doubled over in my corner, laughing too hard to breathe. He finally bolted, hunted down a lone chair, and wheeled it in himself. Sure, I'd humiliated myself at the interview, yet somehow I'd become a trendsetter. Julian had dug his own crater. Now the entire company believed that if you invite the boss to sit on you, a promotion pops out. And Julian couldn't even explain. After all, he'd both praised me and promoted me. After the meeting, euphoria lingered. People looked ready to collect their shiny new titles any minute. But days rolled by and nobody else climbed a rung. Disappointment spread, must be because Morgan was first. Next time we've gotta beat the crowd. I nodded, biting my cheeks to stay professional. I had no clue why Julian really promoted me, but I wouldn't waste time digging. Surely it had zero to do with lap sitting. Whatever, the promotion's mine, no point whining. 6. My desk sat so close to Julian's office it felt like a geographical cheat code, and his blinds stayed open more than they closed. I couldn't help sneaking peeks. Not my fault, he's ridiculously good-looking. Among the fresh hires, Jason looked pretty decent too, and he was sweet enough to offer help unprompted. One afternoon, mid-ogle, Jason slid a cup of cold brew onto my desk. Hearing my name, I yanked my gaze back like a thief yanking a hand from a cookie jar. Scarlett, what are you spacing out about? And nothing. He smiled gently and pushed the paper cup toward me. Cold brew for you. I thanked him and instantly Venmo'd the money. Once he left, I inched my stare toward Julian again, and slammed straight into his eyes. Panic. I swept my gaze around, pretending to daydream. Had I imagined the scowl etched across his face? He definitely looked like he was glaring. Probably just my guilt talking. At noon a delivery guy staggered in, arms full of 2 giant cartons. Cold brew delivery. Murmurs flew. Who ordered? I blinked, stunned. Julian strolled out, hands in pockets. I did. You've all worked hard. Cold brews on me. Cheers erupted. Jordan. I stared at the half-full cup Jason had given me and went quiet. 1 a day is my caffeine ceiling. When everyone had claimed a cup, 1 remained. Who didn't get one? Morgan, she hasn't. I waved my cup. I'm good, thanks. Totally normal answer. Until Julian suddenly spoke. Morgan, you don't like it? My spine jolted. He was leaning in his doorway, eyes locked on me. I sprang up, bright grin plastered on. Love it, cold brew is life. Lunch break, bathroom trip, back to desk, and Jason's cup was gone. Found it later in the trash. Okay, someone must have knocked it over. No big deal. 7. For reasons unknown, Jason became the second newbie promoted, though they shipped him to a different division. To celebrate, I asked my best friend Tiffany for a Friday after-work shopping spree. Lately, nightmare clients had her tearing her hair out. The instant she heard mall, her eyes turned into heart emojis. We limped through aisles until our feet throbbed, then queued for dinner. While we waited, Tiffany asked, So, Scarlett, what's it like working under Julian? I thought it over and answered honestly, fantastic, I candy on daily rotation. Tiffany sighed and shook her head. Julian is stupidly handsome. Back in college I thought you two would click, but guess your standards are mutually out of reach. Mutually, out of reach? I froze for a beat. They have no idea. I've crushed on Julian for years. Commencement day, I'd planned to confess. While we were snapping group photos, freshmen swarmed him for signatures and selfies, and campus orbited right in the middle of that constellation. A buddy teased, dude's a chick magnet, huh? Yeah, he always has been. I deliberately turned my back to the group, refusing to look at Julian. Another friend kept staring at the crowd. Did that girl just confess to Julian? Julian's best buddy waved a hand. Useless even if she did. That guy wouldn't even look at campus. He told me himself, he's not into any of these girls. Feel sorry for those poor things, bawling their eyes out when he turns them down. I lowered my eyes quietly and listened. So what kind of girl would someone like Julian actually like? I'm not as pretty as campus, and my family background isn't half as flashy. If even she got rejected, what courage do I have to dare try? I'd probably lose even the right to call him a friend. Suddenly a friend glanced my way, noticed my expression, and teased, "Scarlett, do you like Julian too?" With several pairs of eyes on me, I panicked and denied it outright. I exaggerated my tone on purpose. No way. How could I ever like someone like Julian? Who knew Julian overheard every word? When I turned, he tapped my head with a grin. "Running your mouth again? A guy like me has no shortage of admirers." After the photos were taken, he tossed the bouquet he'd been holding into the trash. I felt a pang for those tender blooms. He just shrugged. Gift from someone, no use keeping it. That night was dark, but Julian's eyes stayed sparkling, reflecting the stage lights. I told myself his eyes had always been star-bright. 8. After saying goodbye to Tiff, I realized I'd left my keys at the office. No choice, back I went. Luckily the security guard was still on duty. Upstairs, I discovered the floor wasn't pitch black after all. Julian's office light was still on. Workaholic CEO burning the midnight oil again. I snagged my keys from my cubicle, planning to hit the ladies' room and head straight home. No intention of greeting Julian, didn't want to disturb him. Of course, the universe had other plans. When I tried to leave the stall, the door wouldn't budge. This wasn't your standard twist lock. It was a fancy high-end latch, which meant, after several futile yanks I had to admit it, I'd locked myself in the toilet, haha. The door rattled loudly under my assault, but apparently not loudly enough for the office. For the first time I cursed our upgraded restroom hardware. More attempts, then surrender. The only person I could ask for help was Julian. I accepted fate, pulled out my phone, and dialed. He picked up after 2 rings. If I hadn't known he was working late, I'd swear he had nothing better to do. His low voice carried a hint of husky rasp that sounded unfairly attractive. "What's up?" I gritted my teeth and squeezed my eyes shut. "Could you come to the company restroom?" He sounded puzzled. "What's wrong?" I whined. I locked myself inside. Silence on the other end. Great, now he thinks I'm a total idiot. Then the line clicked off and rapid footsteps echoed. Julian reached the door in seconds. "Scarlett? You in there?" "I'm here," I answered weakly. His steady voice came through. "Don't worry, I'm here." I wasn't scared, just mortified. He fiddled with the lock while chatting, asking how on earth I'd managed it. Embarrassed, I said, came back for my keys, took a detour to pee. A soft laugh came from the other side. Ugh. His tinkering failed. Finally he inhaled. "Step back, I'm kicking it." I flattened myself against the tank, afraid of flying splinters. Bang, the door swung open. Julian stood there, breathing lightly. "I'll drive you home." I almost refused. Then it hit me, opportunities like this are rare, so I nodded. "Thanks, CEO." Julian stared at me for a long beat. Just as I wondered why, I heard his quiet voice. "You used to call me by my first name." Seems inappropriate now." I explained. "Well, we're boss and subordinate these days." He cut in. "After hours we still have our private history, right?" "Fine." Under his insistence, I caved. "Julian, you sure don't act like a CEO." Only then did he look pleased. At his sleek Maybach, I'd barely touched the rear door handle when he stopped me. I glanced up, puzzled. "What now?" He strode over, opened the passenger door, and offered a hand. "Ride shotgun." "Okay." My place was only 30 minutes away. After I got home I looked out the window. The Maybach was only just pulling off. 9. When the workday rolled around, someone quickly noticed the broken restroom lock. Listening to the office auntie relay the news, I froze. Why hadn't Julian called maintenance? Then, mid-stroll, he was accosted. "CEO, someone vandalized the ladies' room door." Julian paused a beat, unfazed. "No big deal." I kicked it. "Have someone fix it." The colleague gaped. "But, that's the women's." Julian slid his hands in his pockets, gaze flicking to me. I pressed my lips together, nervous we'd spark another office wildfire. Julian smiled. "Yep. Morgan locked herself inside, emergency measure." He really never disappoints. Under the coworker's bewildered stare, I forced a grin. Yeah, grateful to the CEO that day. After that I became company legend. According to office lore, I'm the Wonder Woman who sat on the CEO during a job interview, got promoted, then trapped herself in a toilet and required CEO rescue. No one saw my inner tears, but soon someone even hotter stole the spotlight. Enter campus herself, Stella. If memory serves, her family owns a huge firm. She majored in business admin, clearly groomed to inherit. So why was she interviewing at Sterling? A bunch of us loitered outside the boardroom, watching the drama. Stella looked more stunning than ever, one glance enough to set hearts racing. Julian was personally conducting her job interview, yet the vibe felt nothing like an evaluation, more like an older brother lecturing a little sister. His expression grew grimmer by the second, until I watched a single tear slide from Stella's eye. At that point Julian said something final and stood to leave. Realizing he'd exit any second, the crowd scattered. Being in the front row and slow on my feet, I was caught. "Scarlett, what are you doing?" I jumped and blurted the first excuse, "Going to the restroom." Julian's mouth curved. "Try not to get locked in again. Thanks a lot." 11. Stella left Sterling in tears. Within minutes someone dug up her identity, daughter of a mega construction tycoon. "Wow, she's gorgeous. Why isn't she taking over her own company? You didn't know?" "She came for the CEO, no wonder she left crying." Another blooming beauty shot down by the CEO. I shook my head in the crowd. Never thought Stella was the devoted type. All these years, still hung up on Julian. That kind of persistence is rare. The supervisor waved a hand before my eyes. "Daydreaming?" I snapped back and answered honestly, just wondering why the CEO made Miss Ashford cry. The supervisor adopted a mysterious look, as if chanting "can't say, can't say." But those raised brows practically begged me to ask. I'd been curious myself, so I couldn't help asking, "What?" "Supervisor, do you know something?" He shot me a look and pulled me aside. "I'm only telling you because it looks like you and the CEO are fated. This is something probably only I and the whole company know. Now you make two. You can't breathe a word." I nodded like a bobblehead. "Of course not." He dropped his voice and leaned in. "The CEO doesn't like women." I froze for a second. Then, how had I never heard this? Seeing my thunderstruck face, he hurried on. "Don't doubt it, true story. My uncle owns a company, real tight with the CEO. He tried to set his daughter up with him, and that's exactly how the CEO turned him down. If my uncle hadn't told me himself, I wouldn't believe it either. Seriously, don't tell anyone." My feelings were a tangled knot, because every little detail suddenly lined up. No wonder Julian had never seemed to date. His buddies even said Julian claimed he didn't like those women. So I'd fallen for a guy who, I cried. I honest to God cried. 6 years, how many 6-year chunks do I get in life? Worse, even knowing the truth, my feelings for Julian hadn't changed one bit. Back at my cubicle, I tasted every flavor of misery. Whenever I lifted my eyes and saw him, my heart ached. Should I just kill this hopeless crush? But Julian was the one man who could still make my heart pound no matter how many times I looked at him. How on earth was I supposed to stop loving him? 12. After learning Julian's secret, I tried hard not to steal glances at him. Plenty of fish in the sea. If one doesn't bite, cast again. I buried myself in work, determined to become a workaholic. My job wasn't heavy, but I brought 996 intensity to it. Do it, and do it best. Crank out extra drafts, triple check every figure. All day long I never once looked Julian's way. I kept that up for 3 straight days. Then Julian's blinds started snapping open and shut like they had a heartbeat. Swear I wasn't peeking. The glass wall is just that huge, it fills your peripheral vision. It got so weird I finally glanced over. Julian stood right there, gaze locked on me, but that stare seemed almost resentful. Then his long arm flicked the blinds shut. Did I upset him? At the weekly meeting Julian looked worn out. Usually we recap last week and lay out next, but he broke protocol. "Before we start, let me ask you something." Every team lead's eyes popped. "Go ahead, CEO. Do you think the workload here is heavy?" Silence dropped like a curtain. Because, no lie, Sterling is humane, no overtime, tasks split evenly, life is easy. Julian's question felt like a prelude to scolding us for underperforming despite the light load. Nobody dared answer. After 30 frozen seconds, one brave soul spoke up. "Honestly, CEO, it's light, sometimes even boring." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the boardroom. Julian nodded, then asked, "Then why do some employees seem exhausted every single day? Heads glued to their screens, never looking up?" As he said it, he stared straight at me. Might as well have announced, "The employee in question is Scarlett." I felt wrongly accused and blurted, "Maybe they just want perfect results even on simple tasks." His gaze finally slid away, yet his words still targeted me. "I don't want my people drained by work. Simple tasks done well are enough, endless repeats aren't required." "Scarlett, don't you agree?" What else could I say? Of course the CEO was right. 13. After Julian's lecture, I couldn't hustle too hard or slack too obviously. Life turned stifling. I speed-dialed Tiffany and begged her to dinner. She was on a business trip to the next town, said she'd be late, and texted a photo, her grinning face surrounded by grilled skewers. I decided to wait at the office instead of going home. One by one, coworkers left. Julian finally strolled out. Seeing me still at my cubicle, he frowned. "Your overtime again? What on earth needs that much time?" I waved my hands. "Nope, just waiting for someone, too lazy to double back." His brow smoothed. "Stay safe." After he left, hunger gnawed me. Tiffany's barbecue pic made me drool. I messaged her, "Not even bringing me a bite? Am I dead to you?" The reply came instantly. "What do you want?" I was typing my order when it hit me. Wait, that's Julian's avatar? Holy crap, sent to the wrong chat. I panicked and recalled, "Wrong person, sorry." He answered with dots. 10 odd minutes later, Julian reappeared, arms full of takeout bags. I stared, wide-eyed and clueless, as his long legs brought him to my desk. He dumped the bags in front of me and started ripping containers open, movements brisk, almost angry. "Didn't you want food? Eat up." I clutched my forehead. "This is..." He shot me a sideways glance. "Who were you asking to bring it? Can they beat my speed?" I had to answer. "Tiffany." For a flash, Julian's face went blank. I definitely saw it. Puzzled, I asked, "Something wrong?" He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Oh, nothing." Just then, Tiffany called. "Scarlett, I'm downstairs, come on down." I agreed and started packing up. Julian eyed me. "Tiffany?" "Yep." The food on my desk still steamed. I felt awkward. "CEO, maybe take this home?" He pressed his lips. "Sure." 14. I dragged Tiffany to a street-side grill and ordered a pitcher of beer on the spot. She blinked. "Scarlett, what's up? Bad day?" I nodded glumly. "I found something out, haven't slept right since." 40 minutes later, I was sobbing in her arms. "Tiff, you know what? I've gone and fallen for someone impossible." She patted my back. "Impossible how?" "Look at you, who wouldn't like you?" I hiccuped through tears. "It's truly impossible. I'll just say it, I've kept it bottled for years. I've always liked Julian." Sob, sob, sob. The hand rubbing my back stilled. Tiffany gripped my shoulders and held me away, eyes huge. "Wait, seriously?" "Yeah," I pouted, "but you know why he's never had a girlfriend?" "Why?" "Because he doesn't like women." "Wha?" Tiffany's face morphed into the same emoji I'd worn when I heard. Features practically zoom-lensed. Is that reliable?" I nodded hard. Absolute truth, straight from his mouth. Tiffany's already big eyes went full saucers. I knew she couldn't believe it either, so I hugged her and kept bawling. But the next second a voice sounded behind me. "When did I ever say that?" Tiffany and I spun around in perfect sync. Julian stood right there. "When did you hear me claim I don't like women?" We were so dead. Julian pulled out the opposite chair, sat, crossed his arms, expression unreadable. "I only said that because I was sick of being set up on blind dates." I blurted it out without thinking. "It's not the reason I've been single this whole time. It's just that the person I like doesn't like me back." The sadness I'd barely managed to hold erupted again the moment I heard those words. Tears were about to spill over. Julian lifted his eyes to me. "But just now she said she actually likes me too." The tears that had already reached the edge of my eyes were sucked back in. "What? Just now? Said she likes him? This guy couldn't possibly be." I whipped my head sideways in shock and met his gaze. "What you said, was it true, Scarlett?" 15. Family, we've reached full soap opera level. Turns out Julian has liked me all along. On graduation day he prepared a giant bouquet of red roses, planning to confess in front of everyone right after the group photo. But, tragically, he overheard me say with my own mouth that I would never like him. He was so upset he almost cried. He angrily tossed the flowers and spent the whole night holding back tears. No wonder his eyes looked so sparkly that night. I felt awkward. That was also me blurting nonsense. "Do you believe me?" Julian's mouth pulled down. "One careless sentence from you, and I was miserable for 2 years." Looking at his pitiful face, I wanted to hug him on the spot. Tiffany had long since tactfully disappeared. I simply walked over, sat beside him, and, emboldened by the alcohol, cupped his face. Sorry. At the time I thought there was no way you'd ever like me. He caught my hand and slid it slowly downward, across his jaw, over the knot of his throat, until it rested against his left chest. From start to finish, you're the only one I've ever liked. Let's not waste any more time, okay? I nodded gently. The next second he cradled the back of my head and kissed me. Swallowed by his scent, my mind went blank. Until he nipped my lip, focus. The next morning I marched into the office with slightly swollen lips. A coworker asked in concern, Morgan, what happened? Did you come down with something? I sneaked a glare at Julian and smiled. Got bitten by a dog. The colleague instantly grinned. So you're dating, nice. When do we meet the lucky guy? Julian didn't mind at all. He raised an eyebrow at me, humming as he strolled into his office. A moment later my phone buzzed. It was Julian. Called me a dog? Come let me kiss you and I'll forgive you. Forget forgiveness, keep it. I flipped the phone face down and pretended I hadn't seen it. Sure enough, the royal decree arrived soon after. A colleague tapped my desk. Morgan, the CEO needs you for a minute. I nodded politely. On my way. Ugh, oppression by authority, right? I stepped inside, but Julian wasn't at his desk. I was about to turn back when an arm shot out from behind the door and yanked me into his embrace. He even locked the door with his other hand. Startled, I pushed at his chest. What are you doing? We're at work. He just smiled. So I can't kiss my wife at work? Ah, whose wife, exactly? I forced down my mortification and declared righteously, company rules forbid workplace romance. Julian ignored me, bent down, and kissed me anyway. As of this moment, that rule is revoked. Dylan, I walked in neat and tidy. I walked out a little rumpled. 16. After that, Julian grew bolder by the day. During office hours he bombarded me with flirty texts, files all morning, so tired. Come let me hug you, need a recharge. I picked this desk for you on purpose. One glance up and there you are. Why aren't you texting me? Don't you love me anymore? Just chewed gum, want to kiss you. If you keep ignoring me I'll come out and say it to your face. For crying out loud. I'd already been summoned to his office 3 times today. My colleagues were starting to look at me with sincere pity for the boss-oppressed underling. When the messages still wouldn't stop, I finally lost it. I thumbed a furious reply. Can you stop thinking about kissing and hugging for 5 seconds? Can't you wait until after work? Julian answered, pitiful emoji and all, don't you like me anymore? I was about to fire back when something felt off. Why did Julian's profile picture have a little tag, General Manager Julian, next to it? Aha! How had it gone to the company Slack General? I could still have retracted it in time, but the big dummy hadn't noticed yet. He kept typing. Babe, we're still in the honeymoon phase. How can you be tired of me already? Save me. I shot up from my chair so fast it spun. Ignoring my gaping, popcorn-munching coworkers, I sprinted into Julian's office. He sat hunched over his phone, lower lip stuck out, still texting. My sudden entrance startled him, but when he saw me he broke into a grin. Babe, I knew you cared. He even opened his arms wide. I stormed over, yanked the blinds closed, and started ranting. Julian, could you use a single brain cell when we date? He blinked, bewildered. What's wrong? I shoved his phone in his face. Look what we just did. Julian froze for 2 seconds, then quickly recovered. I held the phone up, glaring murderously. The next instant he scooped me up by the waist. A sudden whirl of vertigo left me dizzy. By the time I reacted I was already locked against him. His cool, minty breath fanned my neck, tickling every nerve. Let them see. Anyway, I want the whole world to know you're the one I love. He pressed a kiss to my throat and chuckled, want a taste of mint? It's not that I didn't resist. I just can't win against that. When he finally let me go I was dazed, my whole mouth icy fresh. He'd given me a thorough sampling. Julian licked his lip, still unsatisfied. Want to fix your lipstick? I shot him another glare, pulled the tube from my pocket, and touched up my color. When we stepped out he kept my hand clamped in his. The door swung open to reveal a row of coworkers who hadn't scrambled away in time. Panic flashed across their faces, like kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar. The girl in front gave an awkward smile. Scarlett, I answered with the same strained grin. Julian ignored the audience, led me to the center of the bullpen, and raised our entwined hands high. I'm sure you all saw some things. Let me clarify, it's all true. Scarlett and I are together. Work will not be affected. Please keep giving us your best. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat, then exploded. I knew it. Every time Morgan walks into the CEO's office, the blinds close, and they reopen when she leaves. Total giveaway. No wonder she got that promotion. And remember when he kicked the ladies' room door down? And I always caught him staring out of his office. I thought he was checking we weren't slacking, but he was eyeing the boss lady. Happy CEO in love. Can we get a company holiday when you two tie the knot? Wishing CEO and the boss lady forever. Only the supervisor in the corner wore a complicated frown, half puzzled, half conflicted. I swallowed a laugh. That misunderstanding could wait until Julian explained it himself. The cheering went on. Julian kept smiling. Avery. I accepted everyone's blessings without reserve. Being with him isn't something shameful. It's the best news in the world. The end. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more great stories. See you next time.